If you're in the middle of a PCS right now, or you know one is coming, this series is for you. Because PCS isn't just about boxes and checklists. It's about the waiting, the unknowns, the goodbyes, and starting over in a place that doesn't feel like home yet. I'm moving into my 9th home in the last decade, and what I've learned is this: PCS isn't just a move, it's a life transition. So let's walk through it together. Hi friend, if you're listening to this, it probably means I'm in the middle of my own PCS, and today we're talking about a topic I get asked about a lot: PCSing with kids. How do they handle it? How do you help them through it? What does this look like as a parent? So let's unpack this together. Welcome to More Than a Milspouse, the podcast for military spouses who want to live with more meaning and less overwhelm. I'm your host, Christine, seasoned military spouse, mom of 3, life coach, and your guide to intentionally designing a life you're excited about as a military spouse. I'm here to help you get the clarity you need so you can get unstuck and unlock your purpose and potential. Because you, my friend, are more than a milspouse. You have something valuable to offer. And when you pursue the things that light your heart on fire, you trade frustration for fulfillment and isolation for a life of impact. It's time to discover who you are meant to be, because together we can change the world. When it comes to the logistics of PCSing, there's a lot of resources. But when it comes to how do we help our kids through this process, I have found fewer resources. That's not to say they don't exist. It's just that you have to know where to go to find resources that can really help your kids through the process. I've seen more resources designed to help kids through dealing with deployment than I have in dealing with PCSing. But PCSing is something that impacts kids deeply, whether or not they talk about it. So I want to start off today just by sharing a little bit about our experience. We have 3 kids. By the time this episode airs, my 11-year-old will be in her 9th house and my youngest will be in her 6th house. So we've moved a lot. And so this is a question I get asked a lot. How are your kids handling these moves? And the answer is it changes because kids experience a PCS or move differently depending on their age and how attached they are to the current location. When my kids were little, when they were babies and toddlers and even through preschool age, PCS was much harder logistically speaking. Trying to get ready for a move, trying to deal with packers and movers and naps being disrupted and being on the road and then arriving in a new location and trying to get a house unpacked and put together while taking care of small children was challenging. Honestly, there were a couple of times where I felt like unpacking the house seemed impossible, but emotionally, it was a little bit disoriented when the kids went to a new house, but they adapted pretty easily. They kind of made friends with whomever. And so the logistics of moving was much harder when they were little. And I still remember we had PCS'd, we were leaving a location. And this was the first time I heard about a child care for PCS program where they gave you 15 hours of free childcare in the moving process. And I was able to use it when we left that location while the packers and movers were there. So it gave the kids somewhere else to be. And I wasn't just trying to entertain them the whole time. And then on the other side, when we moved in, I was able to use that so that I had a couple of days without the kids there that I could just focus on unpacking. And I don't know if I ever would have gotten that house unpacked and put together if I hadn't had that help for a couple of days where I could just focus on the unpacking process. Now, a lot of that was dependent on childcare being available at each duty station. So for one duty station, we were able to utilize a spot at the CDC. For the other duty station, we were able to get a spot with the FCC provider. I know a lot of that depends on the availability of the duty station. When we moved during COVID, that service was not available. And now my kids are older, so I have not looked into how it's been updated since then, and if that's just for Air Force and Space Force families or if that's across the board. So you'll have to do some research to see if a program like this is available in your area, but that was a game changer, and I don't know what I would have done without that when my kids were really little. But when they're little, they don't really understand what's happening, and they don't usually have a strong attachment to a place yet. Over time, that changes. I noticed it with my oldest around the age of 7. She was in first grade. That was the first time it really clicked for her that I have to leave my friends, I have to leave my teacher, I have to leave my school. And that was really tough. And as we started talking about that, I realized she was going into her 5th move, but that was the first time it really sunk in for her. And because we moved so frequently, I can see the age when it begins to impact each of my kids, either because we are moving or because one of their friends is moving. The beautiful thing about having other military kids as friends is it normalizes the moving experience for them. When you have a lot of friends that are not necessarily in the military community, that looks different because they're like, hey, my friend isn't moving, but I am. For my second kid, it really hit her, not because we were moving, but because her best friend moved the summer after kindergarten. So we were actually getting to stay somewhere for 2 years, but her best friend had to move. And I didn't realize at first that it bothered her so much, but then after her friend left, it started to become more apparent that it was much harder for her than she had let on initially. And I think as our kids get older, they get more involved in activities and sports teams and all of these different organizations. It impacts them more deeply, and it's just a lot for them to process, to work through, and to know that they are giving up consistency because they are part of a military family. It is easier when you don't have to learn a new school, when you don't have to start relationships from scratch, when you don't have to feel like you're the new one trying to find the right teams or activities to get involved in. And it's a lot for the kids. So let's talk for a few minutes about how we can support our kids through a PCS. Obviously, some of this is going to depend on the age of your child, how long you've been at your current location, and how deeply connected your kid currently is where they live. If they are not loving where they live, they're not loving their school, then sometimes it's just easier to say, let's start over somewhere else and hopefully have a better experience. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to helping your kids through a PCS. Now, I am not a child psychologist, so take this from someone who is a certified coach and has helped our kids through multiple PCSs, but this is not my specific area of expertise. But I want to say what has helped my kids and hopefully give you some insights of things that you can do to help your kids through this process. When we start to talk about moving, we want to bring our kids into the process. Let them know that a move is coming in the right time. You will need to feel your kids out and how much information they want or benefit from knowing. When my husband and I are just talking about possibilities, we don't always bring the kids into those conversations. But once we know that a move is happening and once we know where we're going, that's when we typically bring the kids into the conversation and start to talk about what the next season could look like. We're aware that they're going to have feelings and emotions about that. And I want to be supportive and give them the space and time that they need to process those feelings. But the more that they feel like they are a part of the process, that they can help own part of the process, the better it typically goes. Even small things can help kids feel more empowered in the process. So whether it's letting them look for new houses and, choose how they want to decorate their bedroom, or if it's them helping pack a box or choosing what goes inside their suitcase or looking at pictures of the new place, it gives them a sense that I'm a part of this process. I'm not just being told what to do and I don't have any say in the process. So the more that we can, we try to bring the kids into the process. The second thing that I think is really important when it comes to helping our kids is to do the best that you can to prepare them for what's coming, to talk about what a PCS will actually look like, especially if they haven't done it in a while or if they've never PCSed before. Talk about what this process looks like of packers coming into your home, movers coming in, taking all the boxes out, things being packed up, having an empty house, saying goodbye to a place where memories have been made, and then talking about what that travel to the next location is going to look like, whether that's a one-day trip or whether you're taking a 2-week PCS vacation en route. The more that they know, the less scary it will feel. The third thing that I would say is create something for them to look forward to. And this matters more than we sometimes give it credit for. It does not have to be big, but the more that you can paint a picture that's exciting, that gives them something to look forward to, the better this whole process is going to go. One of the things I typically try to do is to start to create a bucket list of fun things that we can do in the next location. And then bring the kids into that process. Hey, we're moving here and we're going to be able to go see this, to go do this, to go experience this thing, or we'll be close within driving distance to do these cool activities. Maybe it's going ahead and finding them that activity that they love to do in the next location. Something that they can look forward to for what's next, because it's going to be hard regardless of how long you've been somewhere. It's going to be hard to leave where you're at because there's already a sense of relationship. There's a sense of comfort. There's a sense of familiarity. Stepping into the unknown can be disruptive to your nervous system. It can be disorienting. And so the more that we can give our child's brains something to look forward to, the more it's going to help them in this process. The fourth thing I would say is to expect big feelings. It's normal for them to have lots of feelings and emotions about moving, about leaving a place, about going somewhere new. And I think I have learned over time to make space for those emotions. The closer we get to a big move, the more there are meltdowns, the more there is emotional dysregulation. And the more that I recognize this is probably going to happen, and the more that I am aware, hey, this is not about whatever the situation is happening in the moment. This is about the fact that they have a lot of feelings about the fact that we're about to do a big PCS. It helps me respond better in the moment. We are all human. We all make mistakes. But the more that I keep that in my mind, the better I'm able to respond in the moment. And then the fifth thing I would say that I think I've learned that is so important in this process is that it's okay if our kids need to talk to someone else in this process. Because, as much as I want to sit there and be present with my kids in their emotions, sometimes they want somebody that's not mom or dad to talk to. And if I can respect that, I just want to make sure that they feel like they have a safe person that they can process what they're walking through together. Sometimes we assume we should be able to be everything our kids need in this process. And sometimes they need a counselor, a teacher, a mentor, someone who isn't also navigating the move themselves. And that's okay. I realized she needed someone who was not me to talk to about what she was feeling and to be able to open up about the feelings she had about this. We were very blessed at the time that there was a child military and family life counselor stationed inside the elementary school on base, and I was able to connect her with that counselor, which was exactly what she needed, to have somebody else to talk to about those feelings. Not that we were not already, as her parents, trying to be present and trying to help her through that, but having somebody else to help her navigate her emotions was really, really helpful. That child in FLAC was also able to give me more military-focused resources that helped through the PCS process. That situation has not been present at most of the other duty stations we've been at. So I realize this is not something that's across the board. I wish it was, because it was really helpful to us in that season. But this is where I say the more that we can learn to sit in the hard with our kids, the better our kids are going to be able to navigate this season. So yes, it is tough on them. Yes, they're going to have big feelings about the moving process. And the more that we can help them and sit with them in the hard, the better and more resilient they're going to be. I know we talk about how our military kids are really resilient. And the truth is they are flexible. They do bounce back. They do learn to love things in every place we go. But it is important to support them through that process. I think one of the biggest fears that I have had as a mom and military spouse, and a fear that I've seen echoed from many military spouses, is, am I negatively impacting my kids? How is this lifestyle impacting my kids? Is it going to scar them for life? Will they still be able to make friends? Is it keeping them from forming attachments? And I will be honest, I still worry about them. I still want to make sure I am connecting with their teachers. I want to hear that they are thriving in the classroom. I want to hear that they are making friends, that they are engaging and not just keeping to themselves. But I've also come to realize that my kids are becoming stronger and more resilient through the hard. I don't want to shelter them, but I want to help them learn and grow through the hard times. I'm not trying to make life easier for them necessarily, but I want to walk with them and help them process all of the emotions in life so that they come out stronger on the other side. And what I've seen is this: it is possible. When I talk to adults who grew up in the military lifestyle, I always want to say, what was that experience for you as a kid? And what did you take away from that experience? And it always encourages me when I do that, because I usually find out, you know what? Hey, I navigated this lifestyle and I am thriving in life. I will link a couple of episodes in the show notes that I think you will find really helpful. One was an interview I did a while back with two friends who co-authored a book together. They met as military kids in high school and have stayed friends for years. And so it was a chance for them to look back on their life as military kids and to say, this is what this lifestyle gave me. The other episode I think that will be very helpful as it relates to this episode is one that I did with Dr. Julia Priftis on helping kids thrive through change. And she has written a couple of books for military kids in particular to help them through change, through deployments, through PCSs. That is a really helpful episode as well. But all of that to say that I've realized that my kids can become stronger and more resilient when I help them through the process. It's okay for it to be hard because this process of moving is hard. It's hard on me. It's hard on my spouse. It's hard on our kids. But my role as a parent is not to remove the hard, but to walk with my kids through that. So when I think back on what it looks like to PCS with kids, here are a few things that I wish someone would have told me. Number one, that each kid is going to process it differently, even within the same family. All of my kids are going to respond differently to the same situation. Number two, my kids, our kids, your kids can be resilient and still need support. Resilience and flexibility doesn't mean they're unaffected by what happens. Number three, their emotions often increase as we get closer to a move, and that's completely normal. And number four, our job as parents is not to tell them that everything's going to be okay, but to make space for processing the feelings, to sit with them in the hard. So if you are preparing your kids for a move, here's one small thing I would say can probably help. Ask them, what are you sad about? What are you excited about? And let both answers exist. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to correct it. Sometimes they just need someone to listen to them. And if you are in the middle of your own PCS and realizing you need a little more support because you're having a lot of big feelings about this process, that's also normal. And as I've said, because we're in the middle of our own PCS, I'm not taking one-on-one clients from my coaching right now. But once we get settled in, I'll be opening up a limited number of spots. And if you want to be the first to know when those open up, you can join the waitlist by clicking the link in the show notes. All of this to say, if you are walking your kids through a PCS right now, you're not alone. You don't have to do it perfectly. This is a big transition for them and for you. The fact that you are listening to this episode and thinking about how you can support them, that matters more than you know. If you have other tips, tricks, ideas, things that you have implemented to help your kids through the PCS process, I would love to hear about it. Please come share it in our free More Than a Milspouse community on Facebook. I will be back again next week to talk about one of the most important episodes in this whole series. If this week was talking about helping your kids, next week is all about you and how to PCS without burning yourself out in the process. Until then, may you live filled, fueled, and full of joy. Hey, amazing milspouse, before you go, I want you to know that I love hearing from you. The More Than a Milspouse community exists to help you thrive as a military spouse. Figure out what lights your heart on fire and empower you to live with purpose and impact. You can have an incredible impact simply by heading over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. But your impact doesn't stop there. You can empower those around you simply by sharing an episode with a friend or neighbor, someone who needs a little encouragement in this military life. And if this episode was meaningful to you, spread the love by taking a screenshot of this episode and tagging me on Instagram so we can continue to reach more people, change more lives, and shift the way that military spouses look at life. Because we are better together, and together we can change the world. Let's do it.